Hello, my name is Danna Xue, and I will be presenting my honors thesis on the accommodation of older adults in ride-hailing technology. So the conception of my research question is largely due to my grandmother, who is pictured here on the right. My grandmother is an avid English learner, and she travels weekly to the Arcadia Public Library for free lessons on how to speak English. However, when my grandfather is not able to send her, she has previously tried arranging with the Arcadia Public Transit and also the Arcadia buses. However, these public transportation modes often have a lot of challenges associated with them, such as limited pickup areas, difficulties in scheduling, and pickup schedules. I soon realized that the challenge my grandmother faces with public transportation is not unique to only her. The National Institute of Health established that reliable transportation is one of the biggest needs of all. So one increasingly prevalent technology that could accommodate this need is ride-hailing technology. And currently, the two top ride-hailing companies by market share are Uber and Lyft, which many of you may be familiar with. Currently, there's been anecdotal evidence, as well as a couple of research papers that indicate Uber and Lyft have the potential to improve the well-being of older adults. And pictured here is a former electrical engineer, Martin Gerstel, who is age 94 and takes Uber to volunteer at the National Gallery in Washington quite regularly. Yet, Uber and Lyft adoption rates remain low within the older adult population, despite 46% of older adults in the US who own smartphones. Research indicates that older adults choose not to use Uber or Lyft because of general concerns of safety, such as identity theft and scams, but do not go into details about other safety concerns. Furthermore, there is limited conversation between the measurement of ride-hailing technology impacts on older adults and the designers of the apps themselves. So this led me to formulate my research question. What design affordances are being made by ride-hailing companies Uber and Lyft for older adults, and how can the design be improved to better accommodate an aging population? My approach for answering this research question was fourfold. So first, I examined the communication, second, presentation, and third, the implementation, and finally, the perception of the app by the users. The intellectual significance is that this research attempts to bridge the gap between social science impact analyses and design methodology from an STS and user experience research lens. So currently, UX research is being performed mainly by the NN Group, which is a very significant research group in the Silicon Valley. And meanwhile, scholars in STS indicate differing views for how design should be made. And so mainly the disagreement falls within the concept of inclusion and exclusion. So STS scholars and design researchers often employ alternative visions for how design should be executed and how design research should be carried out. While design researchers often publish papers that indicate a more practical mindset in which certain types of users are prioritized over others, STS indicates that this is propagating a systemic exclusion of certain populations. Furthermore, there are also technology impact studies of ride-hailing apps from, for example, the Pew Research Center, ARC, and USC Keck Research Center, and also on the interaction part of the apps. So these are studies that focus on how the users perceive certain features. However, there have not been any academic research papers specifically on the impact of user and Lyft features. And so again, the intellectual significance here is that design researchers often attempt to use neutral questions on technology that focus on activities instead of individuals. However, this can exclude critical examination of a technology's built-in assumptions. And so this research applies sort of a interdisciplinary approach by analyzing the methods in which unintended users are accommodated in digital technologies. And so I'm trying to contribute to the gap in conversation between impact analysis and product development. The hope is to bridge the gap between designers and users to allow for the needs of users to be amplified in the product development process. The methods by which I carried out my research were pertaining to one, the transportation landscape analysis, to sort of what are the existing solutions and methods for public transportation and privatized transportation in the US. Second, I conducted a content analysis and usability test. And third, I conducted a novel focus group study. And four, I conducted a survey. So for the first part, I reviewed the history and context of ride-hailing and transportation technology for older adults to sort of analyze historical patterns in transportation design. And so the question I asked was, what types of transportation are most common for older adults currently, and why? I also reviewed programs from the National Association of Disability and Transportation Center and looked at different policies and acts that were passed to incentivize transportation for older adults. And the finding was sort of that demand-based rider systems such as Uber and Lyft may be most effective for addressing the unique needs for older adult populations. However, they concluded that more research was necessary. Next, I conducted a content analysis and usability studies. And so the content analysis pertained to sort of the communication part of my research question. and I analyzed Uber and Lyft's published intents and company statements with regards to older adults, as well as the service's interface and accessibility options by coding company blog posts on in vivo software. And the usability studies sort of focused on 3 usability challenges identified by the NN group for older adults, and this sort of pertained to the implementation part of my research question. Finally, I conducted an observational study at San Francisco International Airport for a total of 24 hours, and this answered the implementation part of my research question. Here, I pictured product evaluation app screenshots. So this is addressing the 3 usability challenges identified by the NN group, critical processes of using the app, such as downloading the app, setting it up, and also setting your location. And so what I found was that indeed Uber and Lyft interface did exhibit the 3 usability challenges that NN group identified. Next, I conducted the observational study at SFO, and what I found was that there were a significant number of older adults who exhibited confusion and also annoyance when trying to set up their app and navigate the ride-hailing system at the airport. And so what this concluded is that perhaps there is a need for a physical and technological hybrid of more guidance for older adults on how to use these apps in public settings. And so again, the content analysis concluded that there is a disconnect between the company's mission statements and the actual services being provided for accommodating older adults. Furthermore, usability challenges were present at every key frame of interaction within the Uber and Lyft apps. Next, I conducted a novel survey, which was IRB approved, for reviewing the experience of adults with technical features of the applications and gathered their opinions regarding the app design methodology and user experience concerns. And this pertained to the presentation part of my research question. This survey yielded 380 responses from the age range of 18 to 83 from 45 states, and it was a 15-minute process. So while I'm not able to discuss the full results due to the volume of responses and questions in the survey, key findings were that perception of safety and comfort differed between Uber and Lyft. So for older adults, certain parts of the app setup were proven to be particularly challenging and difficult to operate independently. Furthermore, safety concerns were more so related to the physical aspects of boarding a ride and communicating with the driver than the technological or app parts. Furthermore, comfort concerns were more so related to the technical aspects of operating the app. And so this is a key distinction between what the Pew Research Center concluded, which was that there are safety concerns in general, and part of it includes identity theft and scams, but it didn't necessarily list out how these problems were manifested and how they could be addressed. Next, I conducted IRB-approved interviews in 2 different settings, a local city and local suburb, to better understand how transportation needs of suburban and urban older adults might differ in ways that current interviews do not fully address. And so these interviews surveyed people aged 60 or older, and I yielded 10 responses. And there were 5 participants from the LA County and 5 from the Santa Clara County. And this was a 1-hour interview process. So the main themes identified from these interviews is that customizability, driver demeanor, timeliness, and cost were major areas for improvement within the app. So the social significance of this research is that it has a potential to facilitate understanding of biases surrounding older adults in the United States, and will contribute to the understanding of digital transportation technology in a rapidly aging society and people's relationship to these digital physical systems.